Have you ever noticed something strange? The people who want success the most usually pay the least for it. They want confidence, but they don't want embarrassment. They want respect, but they don't want rejection. They want money, but they don't want sacrifice. They want a better life, but they don't want discomfort. And that's exactly why most people stay exactly where they are. Because nobody told them one brutal truth. Nothing is free. Not confidence, not happiness, not success, not peace, not love, not respect. Everything has a price. The only question is, which price are you willing to pay? And the terrifying part, if you refuse to pay the price of growth, life will charge you something even more expensive: regret. And regret always costs more. Imagine waking up 10 years from now. You look in the mirror. The face is older, the hair is thinner, the energy is gone, and suddenly you realize the life you dreamed about never happened. Not because you couldn't achieve it, not because you weren't smart enough, not because you lacked talent, but because every time life asked for a small payment, you walked away. You avoided discomfort. You avoided risk. You avoided failure. And now, life has sent the final bill. That realization alone should scare you, because right now, at this very moment, you are paying for something. Everyone is. The person who goes to the gym pays with sweat. The person who avoids the gym pays with poor health. The person who studies pays with effort. The person who refuses to study pays with limitations. The person who learns communication pays with practice and awkward conversations. The person who avoids communication pays with missed opportunities. Nobody escapes payment. Nobody. The difference is simple. Some people pay now and enjoy later. Others enjoy now and pay later. And life has always rewarded the first group. Think about it. A student sits alone at night studying while everyone else is scrolling social media. One choice looks boring, the other looks fun. But 5 years later, the bill arrives. One receives opportunity, the other receives excuses. Nothing is free, not even confidence. This is where most people misunderstand confidence completely. They think confidence is something you're born with, something magical, something lucky people have. But confidence is purchased, and the currency is embarrassment. Every confident person you admire has paid for it. The businessman who speaks clearly in meetings, he once sounded stupid. The public speaker who commands attention, he once forgot his words. The English speaker who talks fluently, they once made mistakes in every sentence. Every confident person bought confidence with discomfort. But most people never make the purchase because the price feels too high. A few seconds of embarrassment feels unbearable. So they stay silent, and silence becomes a habit. Then years pass, and suddenly the cost becomes enormous. Now, they don't just lack confidence. They lack opportunities, relationships, growth, experiences, all because they refused to pay a tiny price earlier. There is a story about a man who wanted to learn English. Every day he watched videos. Every day he took notes. Every day he promised himself, "Tomorrow I will start speaking." Tomorrow became next week. Next week became next month. Next month became next year. Years later, his knowledge had grown. But his confidence had not, because information was never the price. Action was. One day he finally forced himself to speak. His voice shook. He made mistakes. People corrected him. Some even laughed. For a moment he felt humiliated. But something interesting happened. The next conversation became easier, then the next one, then the next one. Months later, he was speaking fluently. What changed? Not his intelligence, not his talent. He simply paid the fee. The fee was embarrassment, and once he paid it, the door opened. Most people want the reward without paying the entrance ticket, but life doesn't work that way. A farmer understands this. He plants seeds today, he waits months for results, he trusts the process. Imagine if a farmer planted seeds in the morning and demanded fruit by evening. We would call him foolish. Yet millions of people do exactly that with their dreams. They exercise for 3 days, no transformation. They quit. They study for 1 week, no mastery. They quit. They practice communication for a few conversations, no perfection. They quit. They want harvest without seasons, growth without patience, results without payment. And life keeps saying the same thing. Nothing is free, not even happiness. This may sound strange, but happiness also has a price. Many people spend their lives chasing comfort. They think comfort equals happiness. But comfort and happiness are not the same thing. Comfort feels good today. Purpose feels good forever. Comfort says, stay in bed. Purpose says, get up. Comfort says, avoid the challenge. Purpose says, face it. Comfort says, play small. Purpose says, become more. The uncomfortable truth is that most meaningful happiness comes from things that initially feel difficult. A healthy body requires discipline. Strong relationships require vulnerability. Success requires effort. Peace requires letting go. Everything valuable asks for something in return. And that is why so many people feel empty. They keep choosing what is easy. But easy rarely creates fulfillment. Easy creates temporary pleasure. Growth creates lasting satisfaction. Think about the proudest moments of your life. Really think about them. Was it something easy? Or was it something difficult that you overcame? The exam you passed, the fear you faced, the skill you learned, the obstacle you survived. Your most meaningful memories probably came from moments that demanded something from you. Pain, effort, courage, persistence. You paid a price. And because you paid it, the achievement became valuable. Imagine someone handing you an Olympic gold medal for free. Would it mean anything? Of course not. The value comes from the struggle. The pain creates meaning. The sacrifice creates significance. The journey creates identity. And identity is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology, because eventually, you become what you repeatedly pay for. If you repeatedly pay with discipline, you become disciplined. If you repeatedly pay with courage, you become courageous. If you repeatedly pay with effort, you become capable. But if you repeatedly pay with excuses, you become limited. Every day is a transaction, whether you realize it or not. Every choice is shaping your future self. The scary part is that most people don't notice it happening, because transformation is silent. Nobody sees confidence being built. Nobody sees discipline growing. Nobody sees character forming. It happens in private, one decision at a time, one uncomfortable action at a time, one invisible victory at a time, and then one day, everyone sees the result. They call it talent. They call it luck. They call it natural ability, but they never saw the price that was paid. Behind every successful person is a collection of invisible receipts. Receipts of rejection, receipts of failure, receipts of doubt, receipts of sacrifice, receipts of discipline. Nobody sees them, but they exist. And the bigger the success, the larger the stack. Now, here's where things become even more interesting. Because there is something more expensive than failure, something more painful than rejection, something more dangerous than embarrassment. And almost everyone is paying for it without realizing. It's called the cost of avoidance. And this cost compounds every single year. The cost of avoidance. Most people fear failure, but failure is rarely what destroys a person. Avoidance does, because failure teaches. Failure strengthens. Failure reveals weaknesses. Failure forces growth. Avoidance does none of those things. Avoidance is dangerous because it feels safe. You avoid one difficult conversation. Nothing bad happens. You avoid one opportunity. Life continues. You avoid speaking up in a meeting. The world doesn't collapse. And that's exactly why avoidance becomes addictive. The consequences don't arrive immediately. They arrive later. Quietly, slowly, like rust eating through metal. Imagine a young man who dreams of starting a business. Every year he says, "I'm almost ready." He watches videos, reads books, makes plans, creates strategies, but never begins. 5 years pass, 10 years pass, 15 years pass. One day, he meets someone younger than him, someone less talented, someone less experienced, someone who simply started, and suddenly it hits him. The thing he feared wasn't failure. The thing he feared was feeling uncomfortable. So he traded temporary discomfort for permanent regret. And regret is a brutal debt collector. It shows up when the room is quiet. It appears late at night. It whispers questions that have no answers. What if I tried? What if I started? What if I believed in myself? What if? Those two words have broken more hearts than failure ever could, because failure ends. Regret stays. This is why people reach old age carrying invisible pain, not the pain of mistakes. The pain of possibilities they never explored, the pain of potential they never used. The pain of a life they almost lived. Almost, one of the saddest words in the English language. Almost successful. Almost confident. Almost happy. Almost free. Almost, and the reason people stay trapped in almost is because they keep negotiating with reality. They want rewards without responsibility, growth without discomfort, respect without self-respect, strength without resistance. But reality never negotiates. Reality simply says, pay the price. Or pay a bigger one later. Think about physical health. Every day, you either invest in your body or withdraw from it. There is no neutral. Every meal, every workout, every hour of sleep, every decision is either building your future or weakening it. The same is true for your confidence. The same is true for your relationships. The same is true for your skills. The same is true for your dreams. Nothing stands still. Everything compounds. That's why one tiny decision can change everything. Not because the decision itself is huge, but because of what it starts. A single workout becomes a habit. A habit becomes a lifestyle. A lifestyle becomes an identity. An identity becomes destiny. Most people underestimate the power of small payments because they are obsessed with dramatic transformations. They want a movie moment, a breakthrough, a miracle, a life-changing event. But real transformation usually arrives disguised as ordinary choices. A person decides to wake up 30 minutes earlier. Another decides to read 10 pages a day. Someone decides to practice English for 15 minutes. Someone else decides to stop complaining. Tiny choices, invisible choices. Choices nobody celebrates. Yet years later, those same people seem completely different. Not because of one massive action, but because of thousands of small payments. The world celebrates outcomes. Life rewards consistency. And consistency is simply a willingness to keep paying the price, even when nobody is watching, even when nobody applauds, even when progress feels invisible. That is where true power is built, in silence. There is a reason diamonds are formed under pressure. There is a reason muscles grow through resistance. There is a reason wisdom often follows suffering. Growth and discomfort have always traveled together, always. Yet modern life teaches the opposite. It teaches instant gratification. One click, one swipe, one delivery, one shortcut. Everything fast, everything easy, everything now. And because of that, people are becoming increasingly impatient with reality. They want immediate results from processes that require time. But nature doesn't care about impatience. A tree cannot be rushed. A skill cannot be rushed. Character cannot be rushed. Confidence cannot be rushed. Some things still require time. Some things still require effort. Some things still require struggle. And perhaps that's a good thing, because the struggle isn't the obstacle. The struggle is the transformation. Imagine a butterfly trying to escape its cocoon. If someone cuts the cocoon open to help it, the butterfly often dies. Why? Because the struggle itself strengthens its wings. Without resistance, it never develops the ability to fly. How many people are waiting for life to become easier, when what they actually need is to become stronger? Think about that. What if the challenge in front of you isn't punishment? What if it's preparation? What if the rejection isn't blocking your path? What if it's building resilience? What if the obstacle isn't there to stop you? What if it's there to shape you? Most people ask, why is this happening to me? Powerful people ask, what is this teaching me? That one shift changes everything. Victims look for relief. Leaders look for lessons. Victims focus on pain. Leaders focus on growth. Victims avoid discomfort. Leaders understand discomfort is often the doorway. And this doesn't mean enjoying suffering. It means understanding its purpose, because pain by itself is meaningless. But pain with purpose becomes power. The athlete understands this. The entrepreneur understands this. The artist understands this. The student understands this. The person who eventually succeeds understands this. Every meaningful achievement carries fingerprints of struggle. And that's what makes it valuable. Now, let me tell you something that most people never realize. Your future self is watching you. Not literally, but psychologically. Every action you take today is either earning respect from your future self or disappointment. Imagine meeting yourself 10 years from now. The version of you who became everything you were capable of becoming. What would that version say? Would they thank you? Or would they ask why you waited so long? Why you kept doubting yourself? Why you kept choosing comfort? Why you kept postponing your life? Because that's what procrastination really is. It's not laziness. It's often fear disguised as delay. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of looking foolish. So people wait and wait and wait, as if confidence will magically arrive one morning. But confidence never arrives before action. Confidence follows action, always. The first step comes before certainty. The first conversation comes before fluency. The first attempt comes before mastery. The first failure comes before success. Life rewards movement, not perfection. Think about learning to walk. Every child falls, hundreds of times, thousands of times. Yet no child sits on the floor and says, I guess walking isn't for me. They keep trying again and again and again. Because failure hasn't yet become personal. Somewhere along the way, adults forget this. They start treating mistakes as evidence of weakness. But mistakes are evidence of effort. And effort is where growth lives. The people who seem fearless are not fearless at all. They simply understand something others don't. They understand that the pain of action is temporary, but the pain of inaction can last a lifetime. That understanding changes everything, because once you truly see it, comfort loses its magic. You begin to recognize the hidden cost behind every easy choice, the cost behind procrastination, the cost behind excuses, the cost behind self-doubt, the cost behind waiting. And suddenly you realize something profound. Life is not asking whether you want to pay. Life is asking which payment you prefer, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret, the pain of growth or the pain of stagnation, the pain of courage or the pain of missed opportunities. Either way, a payment is required. And once you understand this, you stop asking for an easier life. You start building a stronger self. But there is one final truth. A truth that separates extraordinary people from everyone else. And once you understand it, you will never look at success the same way again. Because the greatest things in life are expensive. Not financially, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. And the people who eventually obtain them all discover the same secret. The price was worth it, much more than worth it. Because what they gained was far greater than what they gave up. And that's where our story takes its final turn. The greatest lie ever sold is not that success is impossible. It's that success costs too much. Because when people hear the price, they immediately focus on what they must give up. The early mornings, the discipline, the rejection, the loneliness, the uncertainty, the failures, the hard work. And yes, those things are part of the price. But very few people stop to ask a different question. What happens if I don't pay? What is the cost of staying the same? What is the cost of never changing? What is the cost of wasting my potential? Because every decision has a cost. Not choosing is still a choice. Not acting is still an action. Not changing is still creating a future, and that future has consequences. Imagine two versions of the same person, same intelligence, same background, same opportunities. The first person chooses growth, not perfectly, not dramatically, just consistently. They read when others scroll. They practice when others postpone. They speak up when others stay silent. They keep moving when others quit. The second person waits. Waits for confidence, waits for motivation, waits for the perfect moment. Waits until conditions feel comfortable. 10 years later, those two lives look completely different. Not because one person was gifted, because one person kept making payments and the other kept delaying them. This is why successful people often appear lucky. You're seeing the reward. You're not seeing the receipts. You're seeing the harvest. You're not seeing the seasons. You're seeing the confidence. You're not seeing the years of insecurity they fought through. You're seeing the result. You're not seeing the price. And because you don't see the price, the reward looks magical. But it isn't magic. It's mathematics. Tiny decisions, repeated daily, compounded over years. That's all transformation really is. Small actions, repeated long enough. Think about a stone. If water touches it once, nothing happens. Twice, nothing happens. 100 times, nothing happens. But after years, water can carve through rock. Not because water is powerful once, because water is powerful consistently. Human potential works the same way. The problem is that most people quit before consistency has time to become visible. They stop in the valley. They stop during the boring part. They stop during the invisible part. The part where nothing seems to be happening, but that's exactly where everything is happening. Roots grow underground before trees rise above the surface. And yet people keep digging up their goals every week to check if they're growing. Patience is expensive. Persistence is expensive. Faith is expensive. But quitting is even more expensive. The world is full of people paying interest on abandoned dreams. Think about that. Abandoned dreams. Dreams that still visit them at night. Dreams that still whisper during quiet moments. Dreams they pretend not to care about, but deep down, they do. Because potential has a strange way of haunting people, especially when it's ignored. You can silence many things. You cannot easily silence the feeling that you are meant for more. That feeling follows people everywhere, to work, to bed, into relationships, into old age. It sits quietly inside them, waiting, reminding, questioning, and perhaps that's why so many people feel restless, not because they lack comfort, but because they lack growth. Humans were not designed merely to consume life. They were designed to create, to improve, to learn, to build, to contribute, to become. When that process stops, something inside begins to shrink, and no amount of entertainment can fully replace it. You can distract yourself, but eventually reality returns. Eventually, the screen turns off, the room becomes quiet, and there you are, face to face with yourself, no audience, no distractions, no noise, just truth. And in those moments, the only opinion that truly matters appears. Your own. Do you respect yourself? Not the version you show others, the real version, the private version. The one who knows your habits, your excuses, your effort, your character. Do you respect that person? Because self-respect is another thing that isn't free. People think self-respect comes from achievements, but often it comes from keeping promises to yourself. The promise to wake up, the promise to practice, the promise to keep going, the promise to try again. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you deposit trust. Every time you break one, you withdraw trust. Eventually, you create a relationship with yourself, a strong one or a weak one. And that relationship affects everything: confidence, discipline, communication, leadership, courage, success. Because deep confidence is not believing you'll always succeed. Deep confidence is knowing you can trust yourself. Trust yourself to show up. Trust yourself to adapt. Trust yourself to continue. Trust yourself to recover. That's real confidence, and it cannot be purchased with money. Only action, repeated action. This is why some people walk into a room and instantly command respect, not because they're loud, not because they're perfect, but because they carry quiet certainty. They know what they've endured. They know what they've overcome. They know what they've paid, and that knowledge changes how they move through the world. There is something powerful about a person who has earned their confidence. You can feel it. Not arrogance, not ego, strength. The kind of strength that cannot be faked. The kind that only comes from facing life honestly. The kind that comes from choosing growth over comfort again and again. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need to become extraordinary overnight. You don't need to transform your entire life tomorrow. You don't need to have all the answers. You only need one thing: a willingness to pay today's price. Not next year's, not next month's. Today's one conversation, one workout, one page, one lesson, one step, one courageous decision. That's how every transformation begins. Not with a giant leap, with a small payment, made consistently. The mountain is climbed one step at a time. The book is written one page at a time. The language is learned one sentence at a time. The life is built one choice at a time. People underestimate small actions because they are looking for immediate results. But life rewards accumulation. Every effort counts. Every repetition counts. Every attempt counts. even when it feels insignificant, especially when it feels insignificant, because greatness is often hidden inside ordinary moments. Moments that don't look important at the time. A decision to keep studying, a decision to speak despite fear, a decision to keep practicing, a decision to continue when nobody would blame you for quitting. Those moments seem small. Until years later, then you realize they changed everything. Now imagine standing at the end of your life, looking back, not with regret, not with disappointment, but with peace because you showed up, because you tried, because you faced challenges, because you embraced growth, because you didn't spend your life negotiating with your potential. You honored it. You explored it. You became it. That is success. Not a number, not a title, not applause. Success is becoming the person you were capable of becoming. And that person is built one payment at a time, one sacrifice at a time, one act of courage at a time. Nothing is free. But don't let that sentence discourage you. Let it empower you. Because hidden inside that truth is something incredibly hopeful. If confidence has a price, you can earn it. If respect has a price, you can earn it. If success has a price, you can earn it. If growth has a price, you can earn it. If a better life has a price, you can earn it. The doors are not locked. The rewards are not reserved for special people. The path is open. The opportunity is available. The question has never been whether you are capable. The question is whether you are willing to face discomfort, willing to be patient, willing to fail, willing to learn, willing to continue. Because on the other side of those things is a version of you that most people never meet. A stronger version, a wiser version, a more confident version, a more disciplined version, a more alive version, and that version is waiting. Waiting behind every difficult choice you've been avoiding. Waiting behind every fear you've been protecting. Waiting behind every excuse you've been believing. Waiting behind every action you've been postponing. The future you is not created someday. The future you is created today, right now, in this moment, with this decision. So the next time life asks for a price, don't run, don't complain, don't negotiate, smile. Because you finally understand something most people never do. The price is not the punishment. The price is the path. And every great thing you've ever wanted is standing on the other side of it. Nothing is free. But some things are worth paying for, more than worth it. Everything worth becoming requires a price. And today, you get to decide whether you're ready to pay it.